The Driskill Hotel, a grand symbol of Austin's history, is known for its opulent charm, but it's also home to something far more unsettling. Guests are drawn in by the marble floors, glittering chandeliers, and rich history, but many leave with stories of a different kind, stories of eerie encounters and strange happenings. Among the whispers of ghosts and hauntings, one tale stands out, the mysterious painting of a little girl in white, whose eyes seem to follow anyone who dares to meet her gaze. Some say the girl in the painting is tied to the tragic death of a senator's daughter, Samantha Houston, who died on the hotel's grand staircase over a century ago. The portrait has become infamous for its unsettling presence, with many guests claiming to feel watched or even catch glimpses of a small figure darting around corners. Whether it's just a chilling legend or something more, one thing is certain: once you step foot inside the Driskill, it's hard to shake the feeling that you're not alone.
It was a warm, sticky evening in Austin, the kind that clings to your skin and makes you wish for an ice-cold drink. I'd heard all sorts of things about the Driskill Hotel before, but you know how people like to talk ghosts, hauntings, and that famous painting on the wall. The old hotel has been standing there since 1886, and with history like that, you're bound to hear a few spooky stories. But me, I'm not the type to get scared of tall tales. Or so I thought. I'd booked a room for a work trip. Figured I'd mix a little pleasure with business and check out the city while I was at it. Walking into the lobby felt like stepping back in time. Marble floors, grand staircases, and chandeliers so big, you could almost imagine ball gowns brushing against them. As I made my way to the front desk, the staff greeted me with a smile that seemed a little too knowing, like they'd seen something they weren't telling me. After checking in, I wandered around a bit, taking in the old portraits and antique furniture. That's when I saw the painting, a little girl, dressed in white, standing by a bunch of flowers. It seemed innocent enough, but there was something about her eyes. They followed you, didn't they? Or maybe that was just my imagination. Either way, I felt a shiver run down my spine, and this was just day one. I wasn't about to let a painting mess with me, so I shrugged it off and headed to my room. It was nice enough, a bit too old-fashioned for my taste, but that's the charm of the place. Little did I know, I'd be thinking a lot about that painting soon enough. The first night was quiet, too quiet, actually. I woke up a few times, not because of noise, but because of the lack of it. No hum of cars, no footsteps in the hall, just silence. I figured it was just the old building being well insulated or something. But, as I tossed and turned, I kept thinking about that little girl in the painting. What was her story? The next morning, over breakfast, I asked the waiter about the painting. He smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was one of those, "Oh, you're curious about that" kind of looks. He leaned in a little and said, "They say the girl in the painting is connected to some bad luck. You ever heard of Samantha Houston?" I shook my head, and he went on. "She was the daughter of a U.S. senator. Died right here in the hotel, back in the late 1800s. Fell down the stairs while chasing a ball, they say." I hadn't expected that. "So, that's her in the painting?" I asked, feeling a little uneasy. He shook his head this time. "No, not exactly. The painting's not of her, but people think it's got something to do with her spirit. Guests say they see her reflection in the glass sometimes, and weird things happen when you're near it." Weird things. Huh. I wasn't one to buy into ghost stories, but I couldn't help but feel a bit on edge after that. Still, I brushed it off. It's just a story, right? away for the hotel to keep the legend alive and entertain tourists. But then that night, things got stranger. By the second night, I couldn't stop thinking about that painting. It's like it was calling to me or something. So, like any rational person would, I went back to take another look. This time, the hallway was empty, and the dim lights gave the place an eerie glow. The little girl's eyes seemed even more intense than before, almost like she knew I was coming back. I stood there, staring, half expecting something to happen. Maybe I'd catch a glimpse of Samantha's reflection, or the painting would shift, or the eyes would blink. But no, it was just a painting, except I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. I turned around, and for a split second, I thought I saw a small figure in the corner of my eye, like a kid running by. But when I turned fully, the hallway was empty. I laughed it off, trying to convince myself it was just nerves, or maybe some trick of the light. But when I got back to my room, things got even weirder. My suitcase, which I'd left closed, was wide open. Clothes were scattered everywhere, and my shoes were out of place. At first, I thought maybe housekeeping had come in, but no, there was no reason for them to mess with my stuff. I sat down, feeling my heart race. Maybe I was just overthinking everything, getting spooked by that painting and the stories. But as the night went on, every little creak of the old building, every flicker of the lights seemed to scream, "You're not alone." The last night was when things really hit the fan. I woke up around 2 a.m., sweating despite the AC being on full blast. That feeling of being watched was back, stronger than ever. I tried to brush it off, but there was a weird energy in the air. It felt thick, almost heavy, like something was pressing down on me. Unable to shake the feeling, I decided to go back to the lobby. Maybe a walk would clear my head. As I stepped out of my room and headed toward the stairs, I stopped dead in my tracks. Standing at the end of the hall was a little girl. She was just standing there, staring at me, her dress white and old-fashioned, like she'd stepped out of the painting. I blinked, and she was gone, just like that. I practically ran down to the lobby. The night manager, a young guy who looked way too calm for someone working in a haunted hotel, asked if I was all right. I told him what I saw, and he just nodded, like he'd heard it a million times before. "People see her all the time," he said. "It's the little girl, Samantha. She likes to play tricks." That was it for me. I wasn't staying another minute in that room. I packed up my stuff and checked out before dawn, leaving behind the Driskill and that haunting painting. I don't know what I saw, or if it was all in my head, but one thing's for sure, I won't be going back. Some things are better left alone, and that painting, yeah, it's definitely one of them.